Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Welcome to Chats and Recaps Haunted Edition. Today, we're discussing the Ghost and Gravestones Haunted Tour through St. Augustine. Ooh, I love this time of year.
Me too. So the Ghosts and Gravestone Haunted Tour is a tram tour that takes you through the city of St. Augustine and tells ghost stories of various different buildings as you pass by in the tram. Your tour guide on the tram shares stories with you of each haunted location. The tram tour stops at 3 haunted destinations: the Tolemato Cemetery, the Old Jail of St. Augustine, and the Old Drugstore. Today, we're going to discuss each location in order of least to most spooky. And after sharing the history of each location with you, we will share our personal experiences as we actually have been on this tour and experienced it all firsthand.
So the first one is the Old Drugstore. The Old Drugstore on the corner of Cordova and Orange Streets, built in about 1739. The building was acquired around 1875 by a pharmacist who operated it as, and I hope I'm saying this right, Spiceger's Drugstore. He moved the building twice before settling it in its present location in 1887, where it operated as a drugstore for many decades. It is now a museum containing original bottles, drugs, and sundries that were sold in a drugstore in the late 1800s. There don't appear to be any ghosts haunting this drugstore, at least not at first glance, but it is a really cool museum to walk through and enjoy. This museum is open to the public during the day and closed at night except to those who take the nighttime trolley tour. I think the drugstore was pretty cool. I just like looking at old antique things, and to know that those are the original bottles that were there. Yeah. That was like kind of cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if there were real medications in there. I would have liked to try one.
Probably. Probably not. I don't think a 100-plus-year-old medication is a good idea.
Why not? Consume. Why not?
I don't know. I just don't think
anyway,
so.
They take you in there, and then you're just all in the front of the store, and they start talking about the ghost stories. And then you go towards the back where the museum is. It's like a wax museum.
Yes.
And they had like Frankenstein. Who else they had? I think it was
can't remember.
Dracula.
Yeah, I think Dracula.
A werewolf. A fisherman with the hook.
Something like that.
And then they had a guy with his head cut off or something.
Yeah. And they had a brief section to walk through that was like super dark with some candles and like a Ouija board or something.
Yes.
Like that.
And then they had like that person that chops your head when you're sentenced, and they wear that.
Oh, like the executioner?
The executioner. They had the executioner all set up like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't experience anything haunting or anything.
Me neither, but I don't think the location is necessarily meant to be haunted. I think it's more of, it's kind of like just got cool stuff to look at and hearing the stories about
and the history,
the medications, the history of the location. And when you go through and you do the trolley tour and the tour guides are telling you the story, there's this cool part. They had somebody in there that was kind of like waiting for us to go through, and then they did this little reenaction telling a story.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool.
They also talked about the pharmacist, how he poisoned his wife or something. And then when they were taking her to the grave, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't recall this personally.
Yeah, I think they were talking about like the pharmacist who he was like doing poisons, and he poisoned his wife, and then he married another one, and
I don't know. That's not. It wasn't included in the history.
I think I remember that story, and I was like, "See, that's what I don't like about doctors and pharmacists and stuff like that. They would know how to kill you without anybody knowing."
Well, it's a little bit harder to do that stuff now.
Not
because
really. There's still a lot of things that's untraceable.
They'll know if you take medication out or something like that, because it all has to be accounted for.
Well, you can get the prescription bottle and then they can just change whatever's in there in your bottle.
Yeah, but you can find that out because of what they still have to keep tabs of the medications that are being stored in the pharmacy. They have like these ledgers and stuff and all these information they have to keep on the medications that come in and what they have available and all that.
They create their own.
Because it's like, what, like an independent pharmacy.
Yeah, you can buy those little capsules.
Well, you'll be able. I'm sure there would be a way to catch them. It's harder these days, especially with the tabs on medications and stuff. And, you know, pharmaceuticals is a big industry. Whereas back then, you know, it was kind of just like people got away with more. Now it's a little bit harder.
I still don't trust them.
Yeah. That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
So the second location is the Haunted Tolomato Cemetery. Less than an acre in mass, this old Catholic cemetery dates back to the first Spanish period of 1565 to 1763. It was the former site of a Tolemato village, and an Indian burial ground was believed to exist before the Catholic Church took over it. When Great Britain acquired Florida, the village was abandoned. In 1777, the Menorcans came to St. Augustine from New Smyrna after Dr. Andrew Turnbull, a Scottish doctor and British colonist, invited them to colonize from the Mediterranean. Dr. Turnbull treated them horrifically for years, and the Menorcans finally rebelled, fleeing to the safety of the oldest city. The Menorcan colonists and their pastor, Father Pedro Camps, obtained permission from then-Governor Patrick Tonnan to adopt the old village as their final resting place. Telematter Cemetery was continually used as a Catholic-only cemetery by the Menorcans' descendants and other Catholics through both the Spanish and British regimes and into American control in 1821. With the last burial actually taking place in 1892, the cemetery officially closed in 1884 along with Huguenot Cemetery, when all cemeteries within city limits were ordered sealed due to the spread of yellow fever. 2 unauthorized burials, one in 1886 and the last in 1892, caused the families of the deceased to incur a fee of $25 for violating the law. Whew! $25. Imagine being fined $25.
That's like $2,500 a day.
Imagine being fined $2,500 for violating a burial rule.
I know. They used to fine people for anything back then.
Now, this next part is the part that's most interesting to me. While there are few more than 100 grave markers in Tolemato, there is known to be well over 1,000 burials within the cemetery gates. Parish death records, which are held at the diocesan archives in St. Augustine, confirm their existence. Over Tolemato's centuries of endurance, the epitaphs and unique features of the headstones and markers have long since deteriorated, but those that are still recognizable have been well preserved. Isn't that insane? I mean, think about it. That cemetery is really not that big. And to think that there's over 1,000 bodies buried in there, no wonder there's so much haunting or spirits wandering around there.
Yeah, they're all on top of each other.
No, that's over 1,000 in a cemetery that only has like 100 actual marked spots. That means that like almost every spot you're stepping over, you're pretty much like walking over a grave. Exactly.
Every little inch of it is a grave.
That's what I was going to say. And there are 2 haunting tales to share regarding the cemetery. Okay, so the first tale is James and the Giant Tree. Just beyond the cemetery gates lies a centuries-old live oak, a splendid climbing tree indeed. 5-year-old James P. Morgan spent many years ascending his favorite tree and resting in the crest of its thick Y-shaped branches. One fateful day in late November of 1877, James climbed the giant oak, lost his grip, and came crashing down, landing sharply on the consecrated soil of Tolemato Cemetery. His neck snapped and he died instantly, only 10 days after his 5th birthday. The Morgan family had purchased several plots in the cemetery under the giant oak, planning to be together for eternity. But burying little James so prematurely so devastated the Morgans that they could not bear the pain of losing him and abruptly left St. Augustine indefinitely, leaving their son and his isolated headstone behind, never to return again. Heartbroken and alone in his family's absence, little James' spirit still resides at Tolemato near his headstone, and the tree from which he fell to his untimely death. Children claim to see a young boy running around happy and laughing, climbing and sitting in the giant oak watching them intently. Passerby have heckled James, exclaiming, "Get down from there, little boy. It's too dangerous for you to be in that tree." With no response, only a cold stare. A controversial photo being passed around the web that looks like a young boy wearing a black tie sitting in the crest of the oak tree staring blankly through the branches is said to be the spirit of James P. Morgan. Not to be associated with J.P. Morgan of Morgan & Morgan.
Oh, yeah, I just noticed that.
Yeah, it's literally like J.P. Morgan. Not that J.P. Morgan. This is James P. Morgan, the little boy haunted spirit of the cemetery.
Oh, sad.
Story number 2 is called The Blood in the Apolpanax Tree. I hope I'm saying that right. In the early 19th century, there was a great fear of being buried alive. Great lengths were taken to ensure one's survival if this dreadful occurrence were to take place, but it came with a price tag. If you were truly believed to be dead, then none such expense would be considered, as was the case for a charming young St. Augustinian woman in 1821. Colonel Joseph Smith, a decorated war veteran and lawyer, moved to St. Augustine to start a new life. He met a captivating young couple at a party during his first week in the ancient city, and they became fast friends. After making arrangements to meet for dinner and exchange pleasantries, the colonel learned the young woman was suddenly overcome with grave affliction and sorrowfully passed away the following week. The grief-stricken and anguished husband invited his newfound friend to the funeral, asking him to participate in the family's custom of delivering the deceased to the cemetery seated in a chair. Hoisted in her elaborately decorated funeral furnishing, the young woman's body bounced and swayed with every blemish in the dirt road between the church and Tolemato Cemetery, with the colonel's eyes never leaving this elegantly mournful sight. As the procession passed under the apolpanax tree inside the graveyard, the young woman's forehead was lacerated by a stray branch, causing a generous amount of blood to leak into her eyes. The colonel exclaimed that he saw her eyes wince and insisted that she was not, in fact, dead. After some convincing, her body was brought back home, and several days later, to the astonishment of her entire family, she awoke restfully in her bed. Colonel Smith was honored for saving the young woman's life and preventing her premature burial. 6 years later, the woman died and was laid in state for nearly a week to make absolutely sure of her final demise. This time, the husband declared that they would not pass under this apolpanax tree, as his heart could not handle another resurrection of his beloved.
I wonder if she was like dead and then the tree marked,
kind of like woke her up or
scratched
something,
her and then brought her back to life.
Or maybe it just made her wake up, kind of. Maybe it knocked her out of a coma. Maybe she was in a coma and then it knocked her out of the coma.
That could be.
It's
because
possible.
back then they didn't know what that coma was.
Yeah.
For them, that was death.
So to them, she could have been dead.
I mean, if you weren't blinking, moving, or anything, you were dead.
Yeah. So maybe if her heartbeat wasn't prevalent enough, they didn't sense her breathing, and then they just took her. There's people who have conditions that you literally
really
kind of
light,
yeah,
so light to the point where you couldn't even
yeah
feel her breathing.
That's possible. And then
because she was in such a deep coma.
Yeah, and then something regarding the tree must have, or hitting the tree, something in there must have helped her awaken, I guess.
Or maybe the tree brought her back from the dead.
Yeah, what's weird to me is why would it be that the second time she dies, he specifically doesn't want to go under the tree because he doesn't want her to be resurrected? Like, if your loved one died, wouldn't you want her to come back to life and get another 6 years?
I don't know.
I mean, it's not like she died a couple days later and he's going through grief like over and over. But it was 6 years.
She died
go into the tree, see if it happens again, and then maybe
it's like, listen, you were meant to die the first time. We gave you 6 more years. Now let's not do that tree again.
Yeah,
she's died. She's dead. She's gone. We're not bringing her back.
Right.
This is the second time. I don't know. That would be too weird for me.
So on the tram tour, this was one of the locations that we stopped by. It was raining at this time, so you didn't actually come out.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so we put on our ponchos, went outside, and we didn't get to actually walk into the graveyard. We kind of walked up these steps, and you can stand on this like platform area where you can look over into the graveyard, and then from there you can take pictures. This is because it's at night, so the graveyard is closed at this point. So we all kind of stood there and took some flash pictures throughout the entire graveyard to see if we could catch anything on our cameras. We didn't really catch anything. At least nothing that I would consider to be paranormal.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was like, I'm not going to go and walk in the grass because I thought we were going to go into the cemetery. So that's why I was like, I'm not going to go and walk in grass because you know me, I don't walk on grass.
Yeah. Well, we didn't walk in the cemetery. We just went up some steps and just stood on this ledge and looked in there.
I know y'all told me that afterwards. Yeah. And I was like, darn, I should have just went.
Yeah, we didn't go in.
And then it was like raining and
it's okay. You probably don't want to be walking through all that wet grass anyways.
Ugh. No.
In the middle of summer and it's muggy and all that. Yeah, it's not a good time.
Not at all. I just stood on the train and they told us the story in the train. I wasn't the only one in there. There was a lot of people that stood behind because they didn't want to get wet.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, that's when we went into the drugstore, and then we all followed y'all into the drugstore.
Right.
They were like, okay, their story's over, so let's go.
Yep.
Which brings us back to, there was a lot of people buried that way, like in comas and stuff, buried alive, and they have dug up like graves and have found the insides of the coffins scratched up with people trying to get out.
Isn't that so disturbing?
I know, which is why someone invented that bell.
Yeah.
So they had the bells tied and the string inside the coffin. In case the person was still alive, they would ring the bell, and then the groundskeeper would come running and they would dig them back up. And they would leave that bell there for like a week.
So, but today, typically they do an autopsy before you actually get buried. Yes. So if you ain't dead, you're definitely going to be dead after the autopsy.
And the story's still true
and the
today.
Stuff that they put in your body.
There have been people pronounced dead, taken to the morgue, and
they're not really dead.
And they're not dead. Yeah, it's happened. So
it's crazy.
Those are phenomenon.
I can imagine that. Like you just pass out, you're in like a mini coma or something like that, and all of a sudden you wake up, you're in the morgue.
Yeah, but in today's world,
traumatizing,
where we have so much technology, like now they listen to your pulses and everything. Some people lose pulse, breathing, everything.
Yeah. There's a condition for that. There's like a condition that causes that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So for the cemetery, again, I didn't go. I just enjoyed those stories that they told us about the cemetery. And you went with Mariano and we took pictures. Anything.
Yeah, we didn't experience anything, but we couldn't actually be in the graveyard. So we were like on the outskirts, outside of the fence. So maybe if we actually walked through, we might have a different experience. Maybe. But just from the outside perspective looking in, we didn't have any particular experiences in the graveyard. Though I'm sure that probably may have been different if we were actually able to walk through it. We may have come into contact with something or had like different experience or had some type of like feelings or anything. But when you're just kind of looking on the outside and all you can do is take flash pictures, it's kind of hard to experience or see anything. You're kind of just hoping that if there's anything, you'll catch it through your phone. But yeah. And finally, the old jail, which was absolutely the spookiest, most haunted destination that we have yet to discuss. Yeah, from our experience. Take it away.
So it was 1891 when Henry Flagler built what would become known as the Old Jail. This facility would not only house inmates, but also the sheriff and his family. According to the accounts, the original jail was not only an eyesore, it was within view from one of Flagler's luxurious St. Augustine hotels. Can you imagine being in a luxurious hotel and seeing
Look
across?
Look at this fine view of a prison. St. Augustine's finest.
I know. Flagler, being the businessman that he was, knew that guests would not want to see a jail while vacationing in the beautiful city of St. Augustine, and that such an event would diminish their experience at his hotel. So he was compelled to relocate the jail by constructing a new building that would better resemble the many other magnificent structures in the area. And so the old jail was built as it stands today, which kind of looks like somewhere you would go camping or something, like some kind of facility. It didn't look like a jail.
Yeah, it looks like a facility of some sort, but yeah, probably not a jail.
Yeah.
Like you don't get jail vibes just from looking at the building initially.
So built in the Romanesque revival style, St. Augustine's new jail looked like any other house during that time period, which was kind of like Spanish style.
It's Romanesque revival style.
Yeah. And aside from the fact that it had bars on the windows, no one would ever guess it was a jail. So make it look nice on the outside, but keep it horrible on the inside.
Well, remember how things used to be back then, we don't want to see it. We don't want
I
to know. We don't
It's
want
like,
to know it's there.
If we don't see it, we don't think about
exactly.
it. It's not existent.
Exactly. Remember, and it goes into like so many other issues that happened back then of we didn't
children
hear
should
it.
be seen and not heard.
We didn't,
and
women
remain in the kitchen.
Exactly. We don't hear it. We don't see it. It don't exist. That's not obviously the truth.
Yep. So during his lengthy service to the city, the old jail housed both male and female inmates and was the city's only jail for more than 60 years, remaining open and operating until 1953.
Yeah, so really that's not that long ago.
No, it wasn't. Today, the old jail is a really fun, and interesting local attraction where visitors to St. Augustine can learn about its fascinating history. But there's a dark side to this seemingly harmless building, and this is the side that lures in paranormal experts and ghost enthusiasts from all over the country. For it's what's transpired within the walls of this lovely Victorian building that caused the old jail to earn its alternate reputation as one of the most haunted spots in the ancient city. The walls of the old jail were 20 feet tall and so thick that no sounds could transcend the cells and be heard by outside ears.
Why can't they build apartments like that? Or houses like that,
wish.
So that I can't hear those people, they can't hear me. That would be great.
That would be awesome. That way you can play your TV and music as loud as you want.
I know, right? And nobody will hear
but
it.
yourself.
Not a single soul. So I guess next time you build a house, ask them, can you please build my house like the old jail of St. Augustine, soundproof?
The windows didn't have glass, and the concrete and metal made for a very cold, sterile environment. And while the sheriff's quarters were comfortable and well appointed with all the necessities for he and his family, the male and female cells were far from that. In fact, by today's standards, they would be considered unlivable for humans. No blankets or pillows were provided, and the mattresses stuffed with Spanish moss were often infested with red bugs. Ugh. Oh, can you imagine? Ugh.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Me neither.
And shocking as it may seem, the old jail had no bathing facilities or sanitation for human waste, which meant the inmates were not able to bathe, and there was a stench that could not be eliminated.
Oh my gosh, that is like horrific.
That is, can't even imagine. Like, how did, and I mean, living in those conditions, like, how did that smell not be in the air everywhere?
Remember, the walls are so thick a sound can't escape. It must be difficult, and there's not like proper ventilation to get it out, so all the stench is just staying within the walls.
Gross. As one may imagine, there was much sickness and death in the old jail. Even beyond the executions that took place during that time period, the maximum security cells located in the back of the building were equipped with stockades, a torture cage, and a clear view of the execution area. The solitary confinement cell had no bed at all. Like none. So they were on concrete. Because the grounds are concrete.
Yeah. Rough concrete for sure.
The inmates that were incarcerated in the old jail were the worst of the worst when it came to criminal activity. Both the men and women were convicted of nefarious crimes, and many of them did not survive their sentences. And although they were horrific people, the treatment they received was less than humane in many instances. There were beatings, tortures, and starvation. The experts believe that these events caused the spirits of the inmates and several others to linger within the old jail, offering explanation into the many mysterious and inexplicable events that occurred today. I can see why it would be haunted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
awful. Yeah. It's definitely a jail with one of the worst probably histories of conditions in which inmates lived in.
The thing is that back then it was so easy to fall in one of those jails. I mean, if you owed a bill, you were put in jail.
Well, this jail says specifically that it was used for the the criminals who committed the most horrific crimes. So I'm assuming like murder and stuff like that.
Right. But even then, a lot of people didn't get fair trials. So
yeah,
it was easy to say she did it and
or
she went to jail.
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
And then they went to jail. So
that's what I was going to say. And I guess we'll share the experiences after we talk about some of the primary occurrences that are talked about that happen in the jail. So ghosts and eerie occurrences that happen in the jail. So starting with
men in chains. One of the many complaints to those living close to the old jail is the frequent sounds of footsteps walking inside. Loud, clunky noises indicate that these footsteps belong to the disembodied souls of the criminals that once lived and died there. Guests touring the facilities have also reported this phenomenon.
What's interesting, though, is that if you live close to the jail, and we already know that the jail walls were built so thick that you're not supposed to hear anything outside, is like, how can you live close to it and hear those sounds?
Because they're unnatural.
Right?
They're supernatural, so it's going to...
Even that in of itself of just saying, oh my gosh, he hearing this like annoying like chain sound. It's like, how can you hear that when like the walls were so thick? Even back then, it was so thick to the point that apparently everyone around them could pretend it didn't exist. So it's crazy. Yeah. And disturbing.
Another one is unpleasant aromas. At any given time, visitors and workers at the old jail sense the aroma of sewage in the air. Although there is none to be found on site, others report a sickeningly sweet smell, which many describe as that of molasses boiling on a stove. But despite the daily cleanings and air fresheners, these two aromas seem to linger just like the ghosts. So no sewer, no nothing, yet everybody keeps smelling. Now it makes me wonder, what does molasses smell like when it's boiling?
Molasses? I don't know. Let's boil some molasses and we can find out.
Right? It makes me want to boil some just to see what does it smell like that they're comparing it.
Sickeningly sweet. So it must be like this overly sweet smell.
Ugh. Another is barking dogs. Although dogs once lived at the old jail, there are no furry residents living there today. Even still, it's believed that the reported sounds of dogs barking belong to these long lost pooches, which were family pets of the sheriff from centuries ago. So the sheriff had dogs there, and people hear barking dogs, wailing, and sinister laughing. That would be creepy.
Right.
It probably comes as no surprise that those who tour the old jail hear voices in the cells and hallways. There are many reports of wailing, moaning, sounds coming from the maximum security and solitary confinement areas, and some visitors have even reported hearing the voice of a little girl coming from the sheriff's quarters. Others have heard someone whistling at them, and several guests have reported hearing a dastardly laugh in one of the women's cells. That is creepy.
And finally, the cold shoulder.
Haunted places often have areas that people describe as cold spots, and the old jail is no exception. There have also been many accounts of people feeling as if someone with a cold hand is touching their shoulder. Excuse me. Other reports from visitors include the sensation that someone is tugging at their hair and that someone is blowing on them as they walk by. These are all creepy events.
Did you do that on purpose?
No,
yeah, they're all creepy events.
I meant to say these are all creepy events.
Yeah,
and I was about to say
yeah,
the
you
same
did
way
it again.
Events.
You kind of did a little bit.
My tongue is heavy. It's all that reading.
Yeah. The jail was definitely, and to this day, aside from that place that we stood at in not in St. Augustine, in Savannah, which is not on the list of haunted places, but I sure felt like it was haunted. This is definitely the most disturbing place I've ever been to. I mean, like, as soon as, even like just crossing the front porch, which there was like a little there was a, what do you call it, a rocking chair on the
Yes.
front porch. It's like as soon as you like step over there, like I looked at it and I didn't like the building from the
Yeah.
time I saw it. And then I started hearing when we go inside and they were telling us the stories of that place. I was just like, oh my God, I don't like being in here. Like as soon as we walked into the building, I kind of just wanted to walk out. Like I did not enjoy the experience at all. I mean, in terms of what we went there for, you know, like to experience
Right.
paranormal, I definitely would say I've really experienced like the most paranormal activity in this specific location.
Yep.
And then hearing the stories and everything, it became very clear why. Now, they didn't say this in the tour, but I did get a strong sensation, especially when we actually moved towards the areas where the
cells
actual
were.
cells were, where the prisoners were staying in. And then when there was this one cell that had a bunch of little cells in it, and we walked into this one cell, and I was like, I swear, like I could see somebody on the bottom bunk just like sleeping there or laying there and like staring at me. And when we were in the death row cell, that was the cell that I hated being in the most. Like we were in there and I was just like, I just want to get out of here. Like it just really made you feel uncomfortable. I just wanted to get out. And then I kept feeling the feeling of there were people here who were not guilty and were there.
Yeah.
And I feel like those were the most unsettling spirits that were there, were the ones that were wrongfully accused.
Yep.
Because I kept having the feeling of like, yes, there are bad people, but at the same time, there were people there who didn't belong there, who went through like unspeakable things being in there, who were not guilty. And those stories were not told, but I just feel like being in there, I could feel that. Like if there were spirits in there that were not guilty and who were forced to suffer through these terrible conditions. And it was very unsettling. And like in the death row cell is where I felt the absolute worst. And then when we got out of there, I felt like a little bit better, but still the whole place just kind of has this dragging energy. Like it just drags you down.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, how about you?
I felt exactly the same. The first thing that I started feeling was like this heaviness and this sadness and the sorrow. And I felt like instead of walking into a jail cell, I felt like we were walking into more of like an asylum.
Yeah.
It felt like that to me. I did feel like there was people in there that was more than the people that was on tour.
Yeah,
I felt
right.
like
You felt
a
like
lot
it
of
was
spirits.
full.
Yes,
it felt full.
When we went into the area where the cells were, that we sat on the bench where they ate their dinner.
Yeah,
supposed dinner, and as I was sitting there, I just felt like I wanted to hurry up and get out. I felt like claustrophobic, and I felt like I was like, there's too many people in here, and then you're like, there's not that many people in here.
Yeah,
but it felt like there was hundreds of people in that area with us, and that's one of the places that I would never want to go back to.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that one.
It was not fun at all, and I felt like something came back with me, even though I tried to shrug it off. That's ever since then is when I really started burning the
sage. Yeah,
the sage. I had to buy some sage, and I had to start getting rid of some negative energy because I felt like one of those energies came with me. Which is weird because of all the places that we visit in St. Augustine, that was the most haunting for me.
Yeah, for me too. For sure. Yeah, that was the one place I was like, I wouldn't want to go back to that jail. And because of that experience, any other ghost things I see that involve jails, it really makes me not want to go.
It makes me like,
I'm like,
I ain't trying to bring nothing back with me again. You know, it was hard to get rid of it. I was like, you need to go back to where, you know, or don't go back there. Just, you know, go.
Yeah, you know, like move on.
Find your peace.
Move on to a better place. Yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of sadness.
It was bad.
It was a lot of sadness and like just down. And you just can't describe the energy as anything but like black and darkness and just like.
I mean, they talk about hearing laughing. Yeah,
imagine
and stuff
feeling
like that.
hopeless.
I just felt crying and
even like talking about it.
I know
it starts to bring back some of the emotions there. I start feeling like myself, like I want to cry just talking about how I felt being in there. But yeah, it was crazy.
And I'm gonna tell you one thing: the tour guide who told the story, he was like if he was a prisoner.
I didn't like that.
So he was dressed in a prisoner suit and he was telling the story. And then they even walked us through where they hung people. And he told the story so well that it was just creepy.
Yeah.
Because he made me feel like he was an actual crazy inmate telling us.
He did a good job portraying and like telling the story and stuff like that. But I feel like it was not appreciated that he was doing it. Like, I feel like they hated him doing it.
Yes.
And every time he would come up to the cells and bang on the cells, I just felt like
it was disrespectful.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like really like you're mocking this thing, like this awful thing that people went through. Yeah. And I feel like having it as a location that people are constantly walking through and they're constantly doing these reenactions, it almost like feeds the negative energy that's already there. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how you could begin to clean out a space like that.
It's too much.
It's crazy.
It's way too much.
When they took us out to where they used to do the executions, I didn't like that either. I literally felt like I had this like flash in my mind of seeing somebody be executed.
I know.
And I didn't like that either.
Me either. I was like, I don't like being here. I'm like, is this tour over?
Yeah, that was very unpleasant.
Well, I'm taking the tour because we paid for it, but I really don't want to be here.
Right?
I just wanted to hurry up and get out.
Let's get out.
That was actually the last tour.
Yeah, that was the last spot.
And
save the best for last.
Yeah, save the best for last.
For sure.
It was, I mean, if you want that kind of experience, then the jailhouse is for you.
Yeah. The only thing is, on this tour, I am not sure if you're allowed to have EMF readers and things like that. Nobody on the tour had one. So I'm not sure if you're able to go there with an EMF reader to see if you pick up energies or anything like that.
I don't think they allow it because you're not allowed to linger either.
No,
like,
you have to
follow the tour guide. And I wouldn't want to linger anyway. But you have to follow the tour guide. And as they're taking you to each part of the jail, and then the last part they show you is the execution, and then they end it there, and then you can't go back in the jail cell, so you have to leave. So even when they're moving you around, they're like, please don't leave anything lying around. Make sure that you're taking everything with you as you walk through.
I don't know how they're doing the tours now. I know one of the big reasons that we were being pushed through to follow is because they run continuous tours. Like, I think every 30 minutes, something like that, the tram comes by and picks someone up. Now, I think it's a different story. I think they only do like a couple now, if I'm not mistaken. But back then, the tours were almost back to back, so everything was being timed just right. And the guys got to reset, go to the same spot so he can, or the next person comes in to tell the story for the next group. Right. So that's a reason why they were keeping everything so, like together, no going back, all that kind of stuff, because the tour, how continuously they run their tours. So I don't know if the experience is different now, if they're doing less tours, so maybe you get more time, or how exactly things are going on with, the state
I wouldn't want more
of the
time
world.
in there.
But yeah,
some
other people
moving
might.
around. No, I was fine with moving around. It's like, come on, let's go.
Some other people might. Yeah, I don't know. When we were in the death row cell, I felt like everything that people did was just like irritating me. It was like just the presence of other people was bothering me. Anything that people did, anytime people were taking a photo, anytime people were like saying anything or making comments, it just made me so irritated.
It made and I was like, these spirits are not happy that we're coming in here. They're not happy with those tours, and that's why
it's the opposite
even the
experience
actors
of
and
the
everything
lighthouse
have experienced the phenomenons because they're not happy to be there. And when they first tell you to do the tour guide, even the tour guide tells you how to shake off, but it didn't work. They're like, shake it off, because you don't want to take anything with you.
When you go into a place like that, you need a little bit more than shaking off. You know what I mean? You need like a full, they need to do like full cleansings of people when they walk in and out of that place, I swear.
They need some holy water. Like, here, you want some holy water?
Holy water. We'll sage everybody on your way out.
Saging, that would be good if they sage the bus and sage each person.
Yeah, but some people are sensitive to smoke and stuff like that, so they probably wouldn't do that. But the water, maybe. But now with everything going on, there's no way they would do anything like that. So forget it.
So just take your own.
Take your own precautions.
Take your own holy water.
This would be my...
Like the guys, when they would go to the haunting, they would go to that priest first so they could get holy water and everything.
Yep. So he carries around his thing of holy water. It's the BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural.
The BuzzFeeds.
Yeah.
They go to that priest and they're like, can we get some holy water? Because
Yeah.
we're going there and please bless us, Father. And so they get blessed. That's what we need to do.
I would probably not go back to the jail, but if anybody else is going to do it, and you can manage to find a way to be in there and do it like yourself or something, and then you're able to take an EMF equipment, I would love to see the readings that you would get with an EMF reader using like ghost equipment in there to see what you pick up.
Here's the thing.
I'm sure you would pick up.
Why
plenty.
didn't BuzzFeed or one of those other people?
I don't know if they have done it or not.
done?
They've done jails in the past, but
I don't think that one they haven't.
The St. Augustine jail.
Mm-mm.
There are a lot of jails that really big, famously known jails that are haunted.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if St. Augustine is maybe like that jail is as well known as a lot of the other ones.
Oh, they should. I mean, it was haunted to me.
It may or may not be. I don't know.
That was the most activity I ever felt.
Yeah. Maybe we could write in a suggestion to them, because if anybody can get in there alone, it would be them.
Besides
they could
the
definitely
lighthouse.
get it alone.
I mean,
yeah, they did the lighthouse already.
Yeah.
But we send a thing like, hey, do the old
need to do
jailhouse
the
of St. Augustine and do it,
Augustine.
because you guys will be able to actually do it alone. And I would love to see, because they
Yes.
have all the equipment. They have the spirit
Yes.
box, the EMF reader, all that stuff. So they'll be able to pick up stuff in there for sure.
Yes.
I could already see the little guy in there like scared
Yeah.
and wanting to leave.
And the other one, hey, if anybody's in here, talk to me.
Oh yeah, when he's like,
show yourself.
rip off my face and throw me across the room, tear off my limbs.
Yes. Come on, BuzzFeed. Y'all need
It's
to go.
hilarious when he does that.
Yeah, they need to go and they need to do that. Somebody needs to do it.
Yeah,
But it's got to be somebody who's unless maybe they've tried, but they just don't
I don't
allow
know,
it.
Maybe they're definitely one of the more stricter locations in terms of the jail.
I think it's because they're constantly
so
running.
I don't know.
So
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure.
mhm.
But yeah, so that was the Ghost and Gravestones tour that you can take through St. Augustine, which is a night tram tour. It is definitely lighter on your feet than what we talked about last week, Friday, which was the St. Augustine Lighthouse, where it's pretty much all walking. This is mainly sitting on a bus, hearing stories, and then walking for short periods of time through the different locations.
And they're great storytellers too.
Yeah, they really are.
From the one on the tour, the tour guide that we had on the bus, she was great.
Yeah, and they're also like pretty much actors. So
Of
they're,
course.
they're not just telling a story.
They
like,
know how to sell that story.
Yeah, they act out the story.
Yeah, it's like if they're telling you from their experience and not just the story. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're very good storytellers. Everyone that we've come across during our tour on that bus or the trolley, it was great storytellers. So
Yeah, 10 out of 10 recommend.
definitely recommend. Definitely.
And, yeah, like if you want to experience some paranormal activity, go to the old jail.
Especially for
Boom.
Halloween now.
Done. I know, right?
Just go for it. Do it.
Go on All Hallows Eve.
Ooh. Now that makes me want to do it.
You want to do it
Makes
again?
makes me want to go to St. Augustine.
I was gonna say, you're gonna do it again.
I don't know about
You just said you didn't want to go
No,
to the
there's
jail.
other places to go.
Oh yeah, there's other places.
to
There's a
visit.
haunted restaurant, I believe, that
And
we
a
drove
bar.
by, and a haunted bar. Yes, there's a
Yes.
haunted bar and there's a haunted restaurant. And the haunted restaurant, there's a ghost of a female who wanders like up and down the stairs in the restaurant from the first floor to the second floor, and then they say you can like see her on the balcony and things like
Yep.
that. So if you go there to eat, I don't know the name of the restaurant, but if you
They
search haunted
have-
restaurant St. Augustine, you could probably find it. They say some of the people who go in there see the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll like ask like, who's that woman? And they're like, what woman?
They have a hop
Oh,
on,
I think
hop
she was
off.
supposed to get married or something, and she wears like a wedding dress or something like that, or like something reminiscent of like to be married.
Yeah, they say that it's like if she's still waiting to be walked
Yeah.
to the aisle or something
Mhm.
like that. And then there's another little girl like at the entrance of St. Augustine. I think right before you start at the cemetery or the jail, there's the entrance to the cemetery. There's a spirit called Elizabeth
Ooh,
who passed away as a little girl from yellow fever. And they say
Mhm.
that many visitors have seen her waving they're like, we don't know if she's waving hi or waving get out of here.
Yeah. Well, usually you don't wave if you want someone to leave. But
I know, right?
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So the cemetery is open during the day.
Yes.
And it's free. So maybe we can go back and walk the cemetery and see if we get anything. Take a ghost box, take a spirit box and see if you can get any conversations. If you don't have a ghost spirit box, you can also use your voice recording app. And you can ask questions into the phone and just have your phone record, and you won't like necessarily hear anything. But when you play it back, it might pick up some stuff, so you can ask questions. Some people have picked up things that way too. If you don't have ghost equipment, yeah. So if you don't have ghost hunting equipment, that's an option too. Just turn on your voice memo, ask questions, give it time, play it back, and see if you pick anything up. That would be like the budget way of doing a spirit box session.
Yeah. And there's also they have these tickets that you can purchase where they're called hop on hop off, and they take you to like the restaurant, the bars. It's like
the pub crawl.
Yeah, they take you get on and off, and you get to do the beer and the wine.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine hopping on and off and drinking?
Yeah, that would be fun times. I would definitely
need to stay there.
Yeah, that would be fun times.
That would be great.
Have
that designated driver.
Yeah, there are so many different like pub crawl, ghost tour things that you can do.
Yes.
I know, because even like when because we're going to Tennessee and Savannah, and we're looking at like ghost stuff in Savannah. But yeah, most of the ghost tours are like pub crawls.
Anyway, you can go to viator.com, and they have like all the things you can do in St. Augustine, from cruising to ghost tours to hop on hop off bar and restaurant, and they have great packages and great deals.
Yeah, totally.
The hop on hop off starts at about $60 a person, but I mean it's an 11-hour tour.
But do you get 11 hours?
It's 11 hours, yeah. 11 hours.
I'm assuming they must take some kind of food break or something. Yeah, I'm like, what?
Well, yeah, you do the dinner. It includes dinner.
And lunch. 11 hours? You should be
11
having
hours.
2 meals at that point.
11
that
hours.
Is a long tour.
You're on and off. And they're like, dress comfortable, wear flats or sneakers, and because they do a lot of walking. And
I heard of that.
I was looking at it, and it starts at about $60 a person.
And are the meals included?
Yeah, the meals and the drinks.
Beer and wine. Can't talk.
Beer, wine.
I'm shocked.
I know. It's like, where was this when we were going?
Oh my gosh! You know what I've
Where
always
was this
wanted?
when we were going back and forth?
Right? You know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to rent one of those like scooter things to like drive through the city.
Just park in rent the scooters.
Right?
Yeah, they have these little scooters you can rent.
Yeah, it's like the perfect location to ride a bike through or
they
ride a
have bike
scooter.
rentals too.
Yeah.
They have the scooters, the bike rentals, and what are the ones
so
that
if you want the workout, get the
like
bike.
The mall cop.
Oh,
I forget what they call them.
They're called
the mall cop
segways.
Yeah, they have those too. I saw that. The double and triple bikes. The scooters. They have
for the athletic
even golf
types.
carts.
Yeah, for the athletic types, you got the bicycle that you actually, manually push yourself. Yeah. And then, for the nerd types, you can get a Segway.
Right.
And for the ones who just want to look cool, you got the scooters. They got some cool scooters that you can rent. Yeah.
Yes. So they have all kinds of transportations that you can rent. And some of them, they have like attached, you just walk up, swipe your card or whatever, and then take.
You got to be careful though with who you choose,
swiping,
because I've seen a lot of when we were trying to look for something to rent in St. Augustine when we went like a while ago, and I ended up just not doing any of it and just ended up walking anyway, because a lot of the places didn't really have good reviews, and then some of them were saying that they advertise one price and then you go in and then they want to charge you all this deposit and stuff like that. So you have to do like a lot of research before you choose a place to actually rent from. But yeah, there are some places that are kind of scammy, so you kind of gotta like keep an eye out,
because I think they can smell.
Yeah, it looks good.
Smell if you're a tourist.
It looks like so much. So you look at it and you're like, oh, it seems like a great idea, and then you go and you're like, what?
Well, it's just,
You want to charge me $50 on top of that?
You have to look at it like even like car rentals. You go online and you're like, oh, $50. Oh, that's great. $50 for the week. But when you go and everything else that is added on, you end up paying like $2 something for the week because you have to add insurance, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. So the only thing that you're really looking at in the sale price is just what you're renting the car for. But everything that comes with it that you have to get ends up adding up. So it's the same thing. Like, you have to have a deposit. You have to. So if you're renting a bike,
when you rent a car,
it might be like,
you don't have to have a deposit.
Some do require a deposit.
What places? Because when I've looked at car rentals, they don't ask for a deposit.
Your credit card has to be able to go up to, I think, like $500. The credit card that you use, because they put on hold.
Well, what it is, you place an initial deposit, like, and then when you go, you pay the rest.
Right.
And then you have optional insurance that you can add or not.
Correct.
You can either transfer your insurance to the vehicle temporarily, or you can get like.
But when you're renting bikes,
the thing with the bikes
and stuff,
that's not what I'm talking about. But like the thing with the bikes though is that you go into the place to actually rent it, and they want to like silently charge you extra charges for the stuff. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. You have to be careful, because I looked at places and there were people reporting that like they went in and it was like $100, and then they come back or something and now they're charging them like $200, and there are these like other charges they're trying to put through on you and stuff like that. So that's why I said you have to be careful, because some of it sounds a little bit scammy. You cannot do, I call it like, it's like a ghost charge. I'm calling it a ghost charge, because it's when you give a receipt and it's $100, but they actually charge you $150.
Yeah.
So the $50 is a ghost charge, because it's like,
but that's illegal to
undisclosed.
Do, and
that's why I said it's scammy.
And I hope that people know that all charges have to be.
Also, this is why it's important when you're going to places like that. You should use a credit card and not your debit card, because it's a lot easier to fight a fraudulent credit card charge. And if you fight it with your credit card and send them a picture of the receipt, and the receipt is not showing the cost, they will
reimburse.
Yeah, they'll reimburse you that money.
But the bank won't.
Yeah, the bank ain't gonna do that, but your credit card company will.
That's why
I don't do any outside purchases.
I always do it with my credit card.
I don't use debit card for like anything.
Nope.
Except for the stuff I have to use.
I don't even carry my debit card. I only carry one card, and that's my American Express. And that's where I charge everything on.
I had to carry the debit card when we go to Costco, because Costco's the only place that only lets you use Visa, and like none of my cards are Visa except for my debit card.
Well, that's different though, but that's groceries. So,
and I think Chase.
There's no ghost charges in groceries.
Well, no. Well, I'm just saying that's the only thing that would.
That's the only place that I use my bank card.
Yeah.
Otherwise, anytime a credit card is needed, if it's online, I use my PayPal account. It's easier to dispute. And if I go out in public for traveling and stuff, I carry my American Express, and I leave everything else at home. That's the only thing that I carry, because if anything happens, American Express will fight and they'll reimburse me. So
this is random.
And they notify me if something is being rang up. They notify me immediately. Like I get a text.
My cards are the same. It's a good thing and a bad thing in this case, because it's a good thing because anytime you do something outside of your normal shopping pattern, it'll be like, hold up. It won't let the charge go through, and then it'll alert you like, hey, this charge is being charged.
Yeah, but once you say yes, it's
you have to approve it, right?
Then it'll go through.
It's a good and bad thing though, because sometimes you're actually buying something and your card is not letting it go through, and you're like, what? I definitely have the funds in my card. And then you got to call, and they're like, oh, it's because it's like an unusually high charge for you. And then they'll be like, is this you? Yes, this is me. Yes. Please allow.
But
or when we went out of the state and like it wasn't letting me charge anything to my card, and then I had to go in and say that yes, I am currently in Georgia to allow charges to go through.
But I mean, it's good.
Yeah, I was like, it's a good thing.
It's good.
But then it's a bad thing when it's keeping you from getting something.
No, it's good because one time my American Express, my number was stolen, and somebody went out charging these things like at 2:00 in the morning, and they immediately contacted me, and I was like, what? That is not me. And they were like, we already shut down your card because even if it was me, they shut it down because it was like 2 or 3 purchases almost spontaneously in different states.
What?
So they were like,
yeah, that's fraudulent.
They said, oh, we shut down your card immediately. And I was like, thank you. And they're like, we're going to be sending you out a new card within about 24 to 36 hours. And it was like, bam, I got it within about 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. American Express.
Well, that was very clearly fraudulent. I mean, come on. Really?
Yeah.
In multiple
states?
But
that's the thing. The thing is that if it was another type of card, it would have ran through and then they would contact you and you would have to tell them that wasn't me. And then they can go back and then be like, okay, when was the last time you used your card? Because I've been through it with other companies. They're like, well, when was the last time you used your card? And I have to start thinking, oh my gosh, when was the last time? Then they're asking you, well, when was the last charge? How much was it? Like, I'm supposed to remember all this.
Yeah.
Where American Express, they were like, no, that's not her. And they shut it down. And when I contacted them to say, hey, that is not me, they're like, we knew it wasn't you because of the way the charges were. So whether you contacted us or not, we shut down your card.
Like, what? You telling me that I can't be in those 3 states within right? this amount of time? You are doubting my abilities?
Yeah, one person was buying, and this is the part I don't get. I mean,
that means that somebody stole your number and like sold it. Yeah,
they were trying to buy with it like $200 and something worth of liquor at a gas station.
Wow.
At a gas station. They were like,
who does that?
Definitely not
really
her.
Even the person at the gas station didn't look like, unless it's the person working there charging it.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. I have a Discover card and Discover does the same thing. They don't let the charge go through. What happens is if somebody does a charge, anything that is off, it'll automatically reject the card. So I'll get a denial and then I'll be like, why is my card denying? And then I'll have to look at Discover or call them to figure out why my card is denying. And then they'll tell you why. Then they'll be like, oh, it's denying because this is an unusual charge and that you have to specifically approve it. Yes. And then when you approve it, then you can reswipe and then it'll go through.
Yeah. But that's why it's good to use credit cards and not bank cards, because if you lose your credit card, you can immediately contact your credit card. They'll shut down your card. When it's a bank, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
American Express just went and shut down your card and sent you a new one. Discover just rejects it. They'll just reject. And then they'll call me and be like, hey, we have an unusual charge. Is this you or is this not you? And if it's not me, then I'll be like, definitely fraudulent, not me. Then they'll shut down the card.
They shut it down completely and send you a new card. Yeah, right. That's what happened with me. They were like, we shut it down.
But they don't do it without me.
I guess because yours was probably that one purchase, where mine was like multiple purchase and each one was like
I think they would have called me.
200 there, one something, and it was like spontaneously in different states. And these were like, whoa, red flags for them. So they were like, her card was stolen. And when I was like freaking out on the phone, like, oh my God,
that's awful.
They're like, yeah, we know it's not you. The card has been shut down. And you're getting a new one within 24 to 36 hours.
What do they do? Do they deny those transactions?
Oh, yeah. They were denied.
So they didn't even go through at all?
At all.
So the person shouldn't even have been able to
They said,
buy.
Like, in those 3 different locations, they were trying to purchase these things.
Yeah, but it wouldn't let them.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the same thing with Discover. Like, if somebody took the card and they were trying to use it or, like, do something unusual, then it would just keep denying.
Yeah, and they were like, did you lose your card? And I was like, no, I still have my card in my hand. And they're like, whoa.
That's crazy.
Like, how the heck did that happen?
Yeah, that means that somewhere you went, somebody stole the card information.
It's weird. Or somewhere that I used my card, it was stolen. I don't know.
It's possible.
I don't know what happened.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's why
you also got to be careful when you take out your card in places to make sure you're not showing your numbers, because somebody could just snap a picture of your card while it's in your hand while you're trying to swipe it on something. And
somebody got like on a video or something. They went through a drive-through and they gave the person the card, and the person did that thing where they put the receipt paper over it and then they take a pen and then they run it back and forth to get the numbers on a piece of paper.
Yes, they do.
And the person was like, I just saw you steal my card information. And then they were like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't. And then they tried to tell them like, oh, please don't say anything. And they were like, really? You just try to steal my card? Really? Like, I don't know how many other people's card information you stole. I'm definitely going to say something.
I'm reporting. I'm calling 911 right now.
That's crazy.
Go ahead and try and throw it away. They'll look through the trash.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It is insane.
I mean, I'm glad nowadays it's very rare that you need to hand over your card to anyone is usually drive-throughs when you're ordering food or stuff that they want your card so they could swipe it inside.
Thanks to things like other than that, Apple Pay and stuff like that, you don't even have to do that. You can
pretty much scan or swipe your card and keep going. And even when you're swiping your card, you got to be careful and make sure that the devices that you're swiping your card in belongs to the machine and not some attach on that looks like it's part of the machine. So you got to be careful with that
stuff. Crazy.
And the thing is that when they steal, I know. The thing is when they steal your information, they turn them into gift cards and they're untraceable,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like super off topic,
but important to know.
Yeah,
especially if you're gonna go on vacation.
Right. Now that I'm done going off on a tangent, we hope that you enjoyed today's story. It was, in essence, a haunted story about the Ghost and Gravestone Tour through St. Augustine. So we hope that you enjoyed. This Friday, is this going to be the week of The Masked Singer?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes. This is the week of The Masked Singer premiere.
Yay.
So our next episode is going to be talking all about the first episode of The Masked Singer. And we're going to recap it and we're going to talk about we'll actually have guesses this time because we'll be able to hear voices. So we'll be able to give you our better guesses after that.
It's going to air Wednesday tonight. 8
tonight?
o'clock. Yeah, Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
Did you forget what day we're on?
Yeah, you had me confused for a minute. Okay.
Yeah, it's airing tonight.
I'm confused because I was like, wait, today's Tuesday. Fox. I was like, oh, no, Wednesday, like the podcast. I gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. We hope that you enjoyed today's podcast. If you have visited these locations and you have experiences of your own to share, please feel free to do so. We would love to hear from you. And we hope that you are staying safe, happy. I can't talk.
See,
I was doing so good until now. And we hope you're staying safe, happy, and healthy and manifesting everything you desire out of life.
Amen.